Hey everybody, today I want to talk about how to find somewhere to live in Sydney. I only had about 2 weeks notice between getting my job and having to move to Sydney. I think it was actually less than 2 weeks, more like a week and a half. So I had a week and a half to find somewhere to live in a city that I'd only been to twice before and only for like a couple of days each time years ago. So I didn't know the area, I didn't know the suburbs, I had no clue where to start, what to do. So I thought I'd just share some of the tips that I picked up, both from friends who had already moved here before me, and ones that I found along the way. It's a very quick process in Sydney, it's very similar to London. It's also very expensive, again similar to London, so there are just a few things you need to be prepared for and a couple of things that will help you when looking for a new home. So it depends really on how long you're going to be in Sydney, whether you're here on a working holiday visa and you're just going to be here for a few months, or whether you're going to be here more long term. If you're only going to be here for a few months, then I recommend looking for a sublet. This is probably the easiest way to find a short-term place to live in Sydney. When I first moved to Sydney, I moved 3 weeks before Christmas. So as you can imagine, it was pretty stressful and really difficult to find somewhere to live so close to Christmas when people aren't really moving around. People tend to wait till January time, and then in Australia, June is a really popular time to move because it's the end of the financial year. And places tend to be a lot cheaper in June. But anyway, so I had about 3 weeks before Christmas, I had a week and a half to find somewhere to live, and I somehow managed to not be homeless. It obviously helps if you have a job to go to, if you know you're going to have an income, if you know exactly what that income is going to be and what your monthly salary is going to be. I imagine it's obviously a lot harder if you are coming here on a working holiday and have no idea how much money you're going to be earning, or even if you're going to have a job. But anyway, so if you're coming here like I did, I actually found it really useful to start off in a sublet just to kind of get a feel for the area that I was interested in. I knew I'd done a lot of research, I'd spoken to friends that had moved to Sydney, and I roughly knew that I wanted to be in a specific area because it was close to the city, close-ish to the beaches, close to my office, and was just a nice and well-recommended area. So I actually found a sublet through friends of friends, but you can very easily find a sublet on a Facebook group. And I know that sounds completely crazy and completely like not very, not very reliable, but actually I know people that have gotten sublets through this Facebook group and really successfully. So I'll link them below because there are a few of them. You do have to be very careful though, so make sure you check out the people that you're going to approach to sublet from. But basically what happens in Sydney, and this is what I did, so I managed to get a sublet through a friend of a friend purely because this couple were going on holiday back to England over Christmas and were interested in letting their room out for a month over Christmas while they went back to the UK. And this is actually super popular in Sydney, and a lot of people do it, especially over Christmas time and holidays, when if they're going back home to visit family, they will sublet their room for a few weeks just to kind of help them with their rent while they're not even using the room. So that's what I did. It was in Paddington, which is where I live now, but it was the Darlinghurst end of Paddington, whereas now I'm more towards the Bondi Junction end of Paddington, which is more like Woollahra. So yeah, so I had this sublet for 2 weeks, and it really just let me see what the area was like, whether I actually wanted to live in that area. And then once I knew that I definitely wanted to live in this area, which it only took me 2 or 3 days to be like, okay, no, I really want to live in this area, then I went onto flatmates.com.au and Flatmate Finders. These are the two biggest websites for finding housemates in Australia, and they're very similar to Spare Room in the UK. Flatmates. I think Flatmates is actually part of the Spare Room brand, but the Australian version. And these two websites I found really, really good. Within a couple of days, I had a whole load of viewings of houses and apartments. All of them were fine. I could have easily lived in any of them, but the one that I'm living in now, I found through Flatmate Finders, and it was actually, I messaged my now housemate Joe in a complete panic because I don't know why, but I was in this sublet and I had a whole load of viewings booked in anyway, but I was just panicking and I was like, oh my gosh, I've only got a week left in this sublet and then I have to move. What if I'm homeless? I had gone onto booking.com and booked a hotel in the city for the week after, just in case I did end up homeless, which was going to cost me $1,000 for a week in the Hilton. And luckily I cancelled it, it was fine. But I was freaking out. I saw this place on Flatmate Finders and just from the photos, I was like, that looks like my kind of house. And then I read Joe's little bio and I was like, oh my gosh, he sounds like the perfect flatmate for me. And anyway, so I had all these viewings and all of them were fine, but I never really when you just connect with someone and you connect with a house and you can see yourself living there. That didn't really happen for any of the places I viewed apart from this one. And as soon as I walked in and Joe being Joe was all like, hey, like all of a fluster, all like his typical chatty self, I was like, oh my god, I love it, I have to live here. And then so a few days later I messaged him. I didn't want to look too keen, but at the same time I was really worried that it would go quickly because of how beautiful it is. And it's kind of, there's some brackets and the kind of brackets of prices, and this is kind of the premium end. It's getting into kind of quite pricey, but at the lower end of that priciness, because it's a beautiful terrace house. It's been completely renovated. There's only 2 housemates, so yeah, it's a really, really nice place, and I was really lucky to find it and to find Joe, because he's the best housemate I've ever had. Literally the easiest person to get on with. We have so much fun, but we also really respect each other's spaces, and it helps because both of us travel quite a lot, so quite often I'll be away for a couple of weeks and he'll have the house to himself, and then vice versa. Anyway, okay, so enough of my personal story, some tips. Okay, so flatmates.com.au and Flatmate Finders, you have to move quickly. You should just do not have your heart set on one place that you find on these websites. Go and view multiple places, look at all of them, because you never know whether somewhere might look a bit crap on the website, but actually you go and view it and it's amazing. That happened to me for one place I viewed. I was kind of umming and ahhing about whether I should view it. Went to view it, it was beautiful, but it was an apartment and it was very soulless, and when I moved to Sydney, I really had my heart set on one of these townhouses. And so yeah, anyway, that was the only issue with that one. But if I hadn't have gotten this one, and if Joe had been like, actually no, I don't want to live with you, then I would have gone for that one and said, can I move in with you? But anyway, but yeah, so essentially you really need to move quickly. It's very much like London. You have to move quick, you have to be quick, respond to messages, be really on it. I mean, if you've just started a new job like I have, your bosses will be understanding. They will understand that you have to leave work early to go to viewings, take an extra long lunch because you have viewings. If they're a decent boss, they will let you take that hour or 2 off work each day to actually find somewhere to live. My bosses were amazing and were like, if you need us to be your guarantor, just let us know and we'll sign something and say, this person's working for us and she's a trustworthy person. Luckily I didn't need that, but some places, if you're signing a lease in particular, you will need 3 months of bank statements with proof of your wages, a reference. I think actually you need 2 references. But I'm just really lucky that I didn't have to sign a lease or anything, because I'm subletting my room from Joe, who has the lease. But the landlords in Sydney, another thing is that landlords are completely fine with people subletting rooms. In London they can be really funny about that, but in Sydney it seems completely normal. Also, similar to London is you will see rooms to rent where you're not renting the room, you're renting a bed in a room. So you'll be in one room with like 3 other people. That's weird. I mean, I understand if you're desperate, then you have to do that, but still, it's weird. Like, how is that allowed? And it's like $200 a week to share a room with 2 other people. That's crazy. Completely crazy. Anyway, yeah, so be careful of that. Be careful of people who are gonna rent you a bed, like a bed in a room instead of the whole room to yourself. Also be very careful because some people even rent out their balconies, as in like you will see people renting out a mattress on the floor of their balcony. Yes, I saw it. I still do not understand how that is legal, but anyway, apparently people do it and it's quite common here, but be very careful of it. Also, in terms of areas, I can't really talk about areas because I was searching in a very small area. I limited my search to Surrey Hills, Darlinghurst, Paddington, Woollahra and Bondi, like that section along Oxford Street and like around and like Potts Point. But if you're more of a Shoreditch, Dalston kind of person, then you need to look in Newtown, and also Randwick apparently. So Randwick, Newtown, Chippendale, I think those are the places that are like the really cool places that I'm not cool enough for. So if you're more of a Shoreditch person, then look in Newtown and the little areas around Newtown. Yeah, I think that's it. The gist of it really is flatmates.com.au, flatmate finders, I'll link both below. If you're going to sign a lease or go on a lease with someone, then you need to have bank statements, proof of income, references from your employer and the previous person that you rented from. You also need to be able to show them what visa you have and proof that you can live in the country for a certain amount of time. If you're not signing a lease like me and you're just essentially subletting from somebody else, then you don't really need anything and it's a lot easier. I literally just had to pay my 4 weeks rent and the bond deposit to Joe, and then I just pay him every month the amount of rent, and then we just split the bills. Whenever they come in, we just pay half, and then with internet as well we pay half monthly, and then we pay half each every month. Yeah, that's it really. But if you have any questions, let me know, and good luck with your search. Bye.